In part one, you'll remember we had a catastrophic engine failure. I'm going to tear this apart and see what I'm up against. I can find online a piece of the case, which is basically all of this, and what I would call the cylinder is not replaceable. So the center part of the case basically going all down here. So I can take this off and access the cylinder or the piston and the piston rod and crankshaft and everything. And I can also get a new piston and rings and gasket set for just over 100. So for about 200 bucks, I could rebuild this unless there is further damage in here, and it may not be worth it. Okay, got the back of the case off. This all looks okay in here. Bearings and gears. But it also popped. Connecting rod, bolt, or maybe it just came loose. It didn't break the bolt. The bolt backed out. So what I'm gonna do, it's just backed out. It's still threaded in there. I had read about that happening, but I mean, there's metal all down in here. But that is hopefully from the piston and the rings. That might be wishful thinking, but I'm gonna check out the cam lobes here. And I don't see that they're wiped or anything. I'm gonna take this off, connecting rod, and get this piston out. There's the oiler. It's obviously loose because it hooks on it. These screws back, these bolts backed out. All right, new theory. These bolts backed themselves out, hit the case. That drove the piston farther forward than it should have gone. Got into all sorts of trouble. This is so close to going through the case right here. Here's the tragedy of this whole thing. A $2,000 snowblower. That's wiped. $2,000 snowblower done because these connecting rod bolts back themselves out. They're not even damaged. The threads are in perfect shape. I don't need to be gentle. Not only did it take the top ridge of the piston. We took all of them, at least right here. This thing is otherwise in fantastic shape. No buildup. There's not even any carbon buildup on the piston head. Good movement here. That's wiped. Unfortunately, the backside of this camshaft is in a rough shape too. Okay, here's where we is at. Had to buy a new, basically, case. $75 on eBay. Used, but good. Still has the crosshatch and everything in the cylinder. Of course, remember this one. What I think has happened is the piston connecting rod bolts came loose, which allowed basically the piston to travel further up. And it traveled so far up that it came out to the point where the rings came above the cylinder head, and then when the piston came back down, it just exploded the cylinder head, pulled it right through. The ring was caught on here and just shot out the piston. So I've got a piston and just a kit on eBay, $140. Piston, rings, and then it also came with a gasket kit right here. So and even some, looks like some seals to replace. Crankshaft seal. I'm basically going to dismantle this and get after it and film it for a couple of reasons. So the 17 people that watch this can maybe learn something along with me, and also so I can put it back together again and make sure I don't have too much hardware left over. Alright. Decided to get a new connecting rod too. I don't think there was even an option. It's pretty bad shape. The rings piston. I'll put together the piston and connecting rod first. There's a little oiler sling. That just dips down into the oil and slings it all over the place. That's going to go like that. I don't know if you can see that arrow. Arrow is going to face the flywheel and the crankshaft outlet, PTO, the belts, whatever the engine goes on. It's going to face that way. Same with this. It says mag on it, magneto, which is flywheel side. PTO is going to go that way. So the gap when I put this in was too tight on one of the rings. So I just took a little filed it down. It's supposed to be between 8 thousandths and 16 thousandths. Also, there's no mark on it. There's a slight bevel right here. Bevel goes up. All right, let's grab a mallet here. Got the rings on. Got them compressed. Lubed up the crankshaft and the connecting rod. There we go. So this guy, little oiler, is going to go down here like this. So I'm going to get this oiled up. And then these bolts are 100 inch-pounds. Obviously not foot-pounds, but inch-pounds. These are easiest to do when it's at the bottom of the stroke. You have clearance. There's 100 inch-pounds. There's 100 inch-pounds. Just a tackle more. I'm worried because the last one clearly backed out. You can see we have nice smooth. You can hear the rings in there. They're gonna wear their new path in the cylinder. Let's do the camshaft first. Line up the marks here. There's a mark right here. I don't know if you can see that. let's get in there. There you go. Mark right here on the crankshaft, and then mark right here on the camshaft. Make sure this is all, yeah, looks like it's moving freely there. I like to use some of this thicker assembly lube. Tends to stay in place a little bit better. There we go. I think we can see that we're lined up right there. Full. Okay. All right. I'm going to go ahead and get these surfaces cleaned up a bit. Find my right gaskets. They're cleaned up. I'm just going to degrease them. You don't need any. In fact, you don't want any sealant in here. I lapped these valves and filled this with WD-40 and let it sit overnight. And we're not losing anything. So compression should be really good. Okay, what I thought was filming was not filming. So turns out my head gasket, this is already on here now, is the thinner one, slightly thinner, like a fraction of an inch thinner. I think it was 1.5 millimeters, this one. Mine was 1.2 or 47 thousandths of an inch. So I don't know if it would have made a difference, but I went ahead and put the thinner one on. It's about 18.5, 18.3 foot-pounds, not inch-pounds, foot-pounds. I think I got it at about 19. And I'm just going to go ahead and finish torquing this down to the right specs. And then I will get these push rods in. Okay, got these all torqued down to about 19 foot-pounds, 18 and a half. I'm going to go ahead and take these bolts off. I got 0.04 clearance, 4 1/1000ths clearance. 200 inch-pounds on the case. Maybe you want this. Some of this is redundant. But you want to pause that. There's the specs. 200 on the case. This is all the pulleys and springs for the belts. Best thing to do is to zip tie them together in order so that this actually goes on the case this way. This will be the outside. And then we've got this final bolt out here. Bolt that all on together. But all this other stuff, pull starter, and some of these little, this is for the starter cover, just little shields. A lot of it's to keep the snow out of this. Of course, we got the exhaust. That gasket's in good shape. Probably just reuse it. Fuel tank, shut-off valve, hoses look pretty good. And then the belt covers. So all that stuff will get put back on, including these belt guides. And I think the next part of this video is going to be me starting this thing up, keeping my fingers crossed. So we'll see you then. Okay, one final important step. I already got this running, but the RPMs were somewhere around 4,300, way too high. And so I'm going to come and adjust this governor. Got to remove a couple plastic shrouds in the fuel tank. It's not too difficult to do. You'll want to probably put this in full throttle here. There's a 3/8 nut on this governor arm here, and the governor shaft is 3/16. And so loosen up that nut so that this can spin freely on the governor shaft. And what you want to do is open up the throttle all the way. Just hold that governor arm open all the way. And then on this particular model, you'll turn it counterclockwise. You can only go about a quarter turn full, less than a quarter turn. So we want this all the way turned. And I'm going to come in here before I let go of that. I'm going to lock it down. And that should put the RPMs close to where you need them. You don't want to run it too high. And you'll see that this is now locked open. That's good. That's okay, because the governor will do the rest for you. So I also came in to this spring here and I bent up the very bottom of it. When you close this all the way, you can see sometimes this spring will come off of this guy and things can get all bound up there. So that's something that you need to be aware of too. So I put that little hook in there. Now it won't come off. Also, this plate can get rusted here. Water can set in here. This can get rusted and bind up. And if that doesn't move, it could have all sorts of problems with your governor working properly. Let's go get it started up and look at the RPMs and see how we did. I actually went ahead and adjusted the valves too. I couldn't get this started. I'd have to use the starter. I couldn't pull start it. Let's see if this starts any better.